Morning, everyone.
Good morning,
Good
Rabbi.
morning.
We're learning Mishnah is Erevin, Parakal, chapter 4, Mishnah Aleph, Mishnah 1. Okay. A person who was basically forced outside he was taken outside of his Tchum Shabbos against his will. Idolaters took him out. They tied him up, they grabbed him, and they took him out, and they dumped him somewhere. And they dumped him outside of his Tchum Shabbos. Or he was taken over by, they translated as an evil spirit, which can mean he was possessed by a demon or any other thing that basically takes away, he loses his senses. And then he recovers. And where does he find himself? Outside of his Tchum. So this all happened on Shabbos. Once he realizes where he is, all he has is 4 cubits around him to walk. He's stuck. At the end of the day, even though he didn't mean to do this, but this is where he finds himself. On Shabbos, he stays. His place of residence was his home on Shabbos. Then he was kidnapped, or he lost his mind and ran out. And then he comes back to his senses, or now he's free from them. At the end of the day, he's out of his tchum. He can't move more than 4 cubits around him. Hechziruhu. Now, let's say after dumping him, they brought him back against his will, or he lost his mind again and turned around and went back home.
Well, he was still in that state.
He went back to his state. That's a he got up better, and then he lost his mind again and went back home.
Okay, yeah.
Ki'ilu lo yatsa. It's as if he never went. Meaning, if at the end of the day, they brought you out against your will, or you were taken out, let's call it you were taken out against your will, and then you were taken back into the tchum, into back home, back into your tchum against your will, then it's as if you never left, and you have 2,000 cubits around your home, your city, whatever it may be. So unless both, if it was only one time was against your will, then you still only have the 4 amos around you, which would mean that if, let's say, they took you out against your will, and then you walked home intentionally, when you get home, all you have is 4 cubits around your house. Your house was your Malkum Shvisa. So you can, that's your Shabbos place. But if you came back when you weren't supposed to, you lost your 2,000 amos around your house. You lose it. Or if, let's say, you went out intentionally from the 2,000 amos, right? And then a bunch of thugs saw you, tied you up, and dumped you back home, you also couldn't walk more than 4 cubits around you. Since at one point you were out intentionally, or you did what you were supposed to, you acted intentionally against Tchum Shabbos. At one point, you're only going to have 4 cubits around you. The Mishna is only talking about where both times they took you out and brought you back against your will.
Just a question. So, is the Daled Amos is from home? Does that mean the point you are at home, or within your home you can go everywhere, but you can't go beyond?
Well, one thing for sure, you for sure cannot go from the house.
From the house.
You probably cannot go from the house. All it says is, let's put it this way. It says, but if you return to his tchum intentionally, he's penalized and may not move out of his 4 amos. Sounds like even inside his house.
Even within his house.
Even within his house.
Okay.
So therefore, at the end of the day, once it comes out that in one direction you were not forced, then the halacha is wherever you land up on Shabbos, all you have is 4 cubits around you, which is clearly not very comfortable, but that's the halacha. Now, let's say when these guys took you out of the tchum, they dumped you in a different city, and the city had a wall around it. They took you out of one city, and they dumped you in another city again. It was outside of the tchum, but you are now within walls. Or nisanu badira basar, or they put him into a dir asar, into a pen or a corral, which is an area that is enclosed, used to hold animals, and it's larger than 4 amos. Okay, so right now, again, you were taken out of your Tchum Shabbos, and again, you're taken out against your will, because if you were to walk out on your own outside your Tchum Shabbos and land up in a city with walls, you would not be able to walk more than 4 cubits around yourself, even though you're within walls. But here the situation was, you were again, taken out of your Tchum Shabbos against your will, but you're landing up within a walled city or walled area. Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Oimrim, Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Elazar the son of Azariah both said, Mahalach Kula. You can walk around the whole city. Don't walk outside of the city, but you got the whole city to walk around, or that whole pen, no matter how big it is. Being that now you're within the closed area, Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah hold that that a closed area is called your place, right? The whole point is that if you went out of the Tchum, you can only walk within your place, your makom, your place, your area. Well, they say that once you land up in a closed area, that's called your place, no matter how big it is. That is Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah's opinion. Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Akiva say, Ein lo ela arba amas. Nope. Even if you land up within a walled city, all you have, excuse me, all you have are the 4 cubits around you, even within the city. Basically, if at the beginning of Shabbos you were in a city, you can walk around the whole city as much as you want, no matter how big it is. But if you weren't there when Shabbos began, this is not your place for Shabbos. You didn't establish this place as your place for Shabbos, which means in our case, you landed up there against your will. You only have 4 cubits around you. Masa Shabbat Miprandisin. There's a story about these 4 sages all traveling by a boat, and they came from a place called Prandisin, and they came to dock on Shabbos. So they came to dock on Shabbos, couldn't get off the boat. What happened? The Fligas Vinasan Bayam, and then the ship was carried out to sea again. It came to dock, but for whatever reason, it landed up floating out into the water again. Now, when Shabbos began, what was it, Tchum Shabbos? The area around the city. Now that they went into the water, they're beyond that. So what happens now inside the boat? So Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Hilchu Eskulam. Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, they went around the whole boat because there were walls around the boat. You know, basically, you've got the ship's deck is enclosed by the walls of the ship. So you're in a walled area. So you walk around as much as you want. Rabbi Yeshua ben Akiva loizaz me arba amis. Yeshua ben Elazar didn't move from their 4 cubits. Sharatzu lahachmer al atzman, because they wanted to be stringent upon themselves. Now notice how the Mishna doesn't say that they didn't walk outside their 4 amis because that's what they hold, as we just said before. That even if it's again, this boat went sailing out against their will. They didn't land. They didn't go out of the Tchum willingly. They had to be on the boat. They couldn't get off the boat, and then the boat, sailed off, or got loose from the dock, whatever it was, and it went into the water. So again, their situation is that they were outside of their Tchum against their will. But at the end of the day, we know from before, Rabbi Shimon ben Akiva say that even when that happens, landing up within an area of 4 cubits outside of the Tchum Shabbos doesn't help you. You still can't walk more than your 4 cubits around you. Here, the wording is they didn't move because they wanted to be stringent on themselves. Not that which implies that not according to the letter of the law, even according to their opinion, they would have been able to have walked around. But they wanted to be stringent about themselves. They didn't want to they still wanted to act stringently. Now, what's the pshat? I mean, why over here are we saying they could have walked around? They said before you can't. So let me read to you according to how they explain it here. According to Yeshua and Akiva, one may not. However, I'm sorry. I'm skipping something important. Okay, according to Mishna ben Akiva, one may not walk more than 4 amas on a stationary ship that moved outside his tchum, just as one who is in a pen has only 4 amas. However, by the letter of the law, one is permitted to walk throughout a moving ship. Listen to the reason. Because with each passing moment, in less time than it takes to walk 4 amas, he is carried by the ship to a new place and given a new 4 amma area in which to walk. It's like he's constantly, his 4 amas around him, which are really based on the surface, on the water, not the boat, but the surface of the water, is constantly changing. And therefore, as he says, because with each passing moment, in less than it takes to walk 4 amas, he is carried by the ship to a new place and given a new 4 amma area in which to walk. These Tanoim nevertheless acted stringently and remained in their place even while the ship was moving, because they were worried that the ship might suddenly stop, and not realizing that the ship is stationary, they'd continue walking. So the stringency was in case the ship becomes stationary, the water calms down and they're not really moving much, then already they can't move out of their 4 cubits, and therefore, even while it was moving, they didn't move out of their place. That's what it means that they wanted to be stringent on themselves. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful Shabbos.
Good Shabbos, Rabbi. Thank you.
Now,